Hi, this is Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanisms in the mega game called Den of Wolves. This is essentially Battlestar Galactica without the Battlestar Galactica IP and spread out over 7+ hours. It's a mega game. It's a big game. It can include up to 50 people. We had 30 in our game. And our game took around 7 hours. That's about right. It's a game where most players, are on a ship. They're on a unique ship, which is essentially a table. You have a table with a board in front of you that represents your ship. You have some meeples, so there's like a worker placement element of the game where you're placing workers to activate different rooms of the ship. But your ship only does certain things, and so you really have to rely quite a bit on other ships and other people in this fleet. It's representing, like in Battlestar Galactica, it represents the last fleet of humankind that's remaining after a massive attack by the wolves, which are the Cylons in Battlestar Galactica. I was on a ship called, oh no, I'm going to blank on the name now. I'm blanking on the name. I was part of the planet Proxima, and I am blanking on the name of my ship now. But yeah, I was on a ship. I was the first officer. Everyone dressed up in various costumes, and we had a wonderful time playing this game and created some great memories playing this game. I want to talk about a few of my favorite things of the game. And it really is a massive game. I can't possibly explain the rules or all the rules or all the different mechanisms in the game, but a few of the things that stood out to me that I really, really liked. One, the asymmetry of information. I think this is a type of asymmetry that's often overlooked in games. There are a few games that have it, including Spirit Island. Spirit Island is a cooperative game where you can't possibly know everything that's going on that another player is doing in the game. So even though you could try to help other players or offer your advice to other players, you don't really fully understand what they're doing, and that helps remove kind of a quarterbacking or alpha player problem. Den of Wolves has that element of the game. It also removes this alpha player quarterbacking problem because there are wolves among you. There are people who, during the course of the game, they become they are informed by the game master that they are actually wolves in disguise. They're the bad guys in disguise. And so there is a hidden traitor element to this game as well that I really enjoyed. And I like that that's revealed throughout the game, not just at the beginning of the game. So I might be playing the game and halfway through, I might learn that I've been a wolf this whole time. It's a great reveal, and I have to figure out how to pivot with that new information. But back to the asymmetry of information, this actually really aided the wolf element of the game because I have my ship. I'm learning how my ship works. I have no idea how the other ships work. I have no idea how difficult things are for those ships, or really what they produce, or what they do well, what takes time. And so, for example, in our game, the science officer, the person in charge of the ship that is researching new technologies, they ended up being a wolf. They were a wolf in the game. And they hid this information, and they kind of slowed down the game for everyone else by telling everyone that it takes a long time for them to research new technologies. It actually doesn't take them all that much time to research new technologies. But I didn't know that. I had plenty of information to pay attention to on my ship. I didn't know how their ship worked. And so they were able to, this asymmetry of information allowed them to create this excuse as a wolf. And even if they weren't a wolf, they could have also created that excuse so that they could work with some players more than other players. So I really like that asymmetric information as well as the slow reveal of the wolves throughout the game. However, I think my favorite mechanism, the thing that I walked away from really having fun with, it was a tough puzzle to solve during the game, was that because we're in outer space, we're each on our own ship. If I am trading goods, so like my ship was really good at making water, but I needed things like I needed food sometimes. I needed materials, needed things like that. If we need those things, someone can't just hand me a token. Rather, we need to have a transport vessel that goes between our ships to exchange these goods. I need to have this vessel to put water on and send that vessel over to another ship in outer space. And in the game, this is represented by little containers. So like the vessel, the cargo vessel is a little container, and I have to put something in that container and physically walk over to another table and drop off that resource at that table and maybe load up some other things on into that little cargo vessel. So, but to add a little twist to this, there weren't that many cargo vessels. I think we had maybe a total of 4 or 5 cargo vessels. And so they were used as a negotiation tactic in the game. So there might be a ship that didn't really produce all that much, but they had a cargo vessel. And so they might lend out that cargo vessel to different players or different ships to use to transport goods, to make these trades, to have a reason to move around the room. And they might end up getting some resources in exchange for the use of this cargo vessel. So it felt like a huge trade ship that various ships could use during the game. I really like that tangible element. It really immersed me more in the theme than if I could just hand a resource to another player, that we actually had to physically move around the room with these limited cargo vessels to exchange resources. And that's one thing that stood out to me as something that could be used in other games as well. In some games, that might be too clunky. It might just add clunkiness to the game where it's annoying that you have to have this cargo vessel. But in some games, I could see that adding to the immersion of the theme, whether it's spaceships or ships on in the Mediterranean, on the water, in the world, where you can't just hand a resource to someone else. You have to actually have a vessel to do that. Those are my favorite mechanisms in Den of Wolves. Obviously, there are many more stories that emerge from this experience that I will treasure forever, that we've already talked about, and talked about these stories with the people who attended and participated. But I hope you have an experience too. I'd love to hear your experience if you've attended or participated in a mega game experience. What stood out to you as a mechanism, an element of those games that you'd love to see in more traditional tabletop games? And if you just have any stories to share, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. Thanks.